Well, the undefeated edition of the Minnesota Vikings podcast is underway, and it is a special privilege to be joined by a man who is making such a huge impact, not only on the field, but off the field for this Minnesota Vikings team, quarterback coach Josh McCown. Appreciate you joining, Mr. Josh.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Look, we talked about it a little bit before the camera turned on. The first time I met you was 2018, Charlotte, North Carolina. Josh Norman's All-Star Celebrity Basketball Game tournament, or like the Celebrity All-Star Game. And I went into that day, walking into the gym, seeing Terrell Owens dunk, right?
Yeah.
And I left that game basically thinking to myself, why didn't anyone tell me Josh McCown could hoop? Like, walk us through just the celebrities on deck that day.
Yeah, there was a few guys out there, man. I mean, I know Cam. I believe Cam was there.
Luke Kuechly.
It was a fun day. And the funniest part I remember about it is, like, it was Josh's event, and I think we came down to the last-second shot, in which he got a charitable foul call and had, like, on a three-pointer that he had, like, 3 chances to make it.
Yep. I think it was like a lane violation too, so he can finally make the free throws. Like,
and he doesn't make any of them. And I think it was me or T.O. or one of us looked at each other like, all right, well, like, if he ain't gonna win it, like, we're winning it now. Like, we're trying to let him win his event. But man, that was because his squad. I know it was a few of his family members there too with him, and so it was competitive as far as charity games go. That was fun though. It was a fun day.
Yeah, just from start to finish, just the people that rolled in, the people that are athletes that were either retired or playing, and just thinking about your journey. 12 teams, 18 seasons in the NFL. Like, I don't know if you know how many Hall of Famers you play with, but do you have an idea of just some of the guys that you had a chance to?
Yeah, just rolling through them, like Emmitt Smith. Larry Fitzgerald will be in there for sure. Anquan Bolden probably should be in there at some point. Kurt Warner there in Arizona. Really good players. Warren Sapp in Oakland. Got to play together.
Staying on that point, right? Like, when you're around all those guys that have played at the highest level and you've had a chance to be teammates, build relationships with them, what does that teach you when you get into the coaching aspect of it?
Well, I think the biggest thing you learn being around those guys is watching their habits, their practice habits. And that's one of the things that throughout the course of my career, whether you're talking about Brian Urlacher, Julius Peppers, Joe Thomas, these guys that I was fortunate to be around. And then late in my career in Philly, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, these type of Hall of Fame type of players, their practice habits are such that it reflects these things that we're talking about. And that's, you want to impart that on young players. Is just Emmitt Smith, I got him at the end of his career and played with him at the end of his career. In every practice, he's running the football 30, 40 yards downfield or scoring and getting back to the huddle. And he was, 32, 33 years old as a running back. Joe Thomas, how he would approach walkthroughs, the level of focus that he would bring to a walkthrough. Watching Jason Kelsey and Brandon Brooks or Isaac Samalu like work through their single blocks over and over and over again after practice, blocks that they had done a million times, but working these combinations again over and over after practice because they wanted their feet to be and their hands to be exactly right, are just some of the things I took away of just the detail that these Hall of Fame type players approach their position.
At what point for you, right, after seeing all of that, at what point do you make a decision that, hey, you know what, like, I may want to coach when I'm done with this?
Yeah, I think very early on, just because the cool thing is watching coaches impact those players, and how those players wanted to be coached. They wanted to be coached hard. They wanted to be held to a high standard. And it's reflective in the way that they played on Sundays, and then while we're talking about them as Hall of Famers. So I do think that impacts you, if you're interested in coaching or as I was, I think it impacts you because it lets you know that even at the highest level and even with the best players that you can do something to influence and help their career.
You have a moment when you finally realize that, hey, or like that first spark of, what, I actually might be good at this when I get done playing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think changing coordinators over and over throughout my career, I think I learned a lot about different systems.
Gotcha.
And how to assimilate and learn a system quickly and try to apply that. And then from there it was as I got as an older player was just like, okay, how can I help a young guy? Kind of starting even going back to when Kevin and I first got together in Cleveland, trying to help a young guy like Johnny Manziel.
Mike Pettin was the head coach.
Mike Pettin was the head coach. That's right. So that's kind of when some of this all started. We're going way back. And then even with Sam as a rookie, in New York. So, looking at ways to like how can you still impact the game when you're not playing, and you get an opportunity to do that as a backup quarterback. And then I think you take that and take some of those tools and go, how can I apply that maybe to coaching, in a full-time aspect. So I think later in my career really is when, and even maybe a little bit before that, even working with Jay Cutler in Chicago, I think some of those things is where I really started to feel, and some of the interactions with men like Lovie Smith and Mark Trestman and Rod Marinelli, like really legends in the coaching profession, like those guys impacting my career and really encouraging me along that path, I think were some of the moments that led me to this.
I love that. I think one of the, we talk a lot, North Carolina quarterbacks, just that whole scheme of how we're trying to make the state of North Carolina turn it from a basketball state to a football state. I know you're from Texas, but just spending a lot of time of your life in North Carolina, it brings me to my next question of thinking about at the quarterback position. Could you, just provide our fans with an example of going from one team to another, having to learn a new playbook and having to digest that and then get in the huddle and then dissect that all in the span of 3 to 4 months if you're Sam Darnold?
Yeah, exactly. It's not easy. And the longer you play, obviously, the easier it gets, even if the language is new, because you can apply some of the basic principles of every system to what you're doing. But at the same time, when you get a playbook and you're taking it as and trying to make it its own for you, the depth of the information learned has to be so solid, because when the stressors come, when the game comes and starts in OTAs and when the stressors come, you want to be able to access that knowledge in real time to be able to get a good response out of your body to be able to do the physical things. For a young player, it's more difficult because he hasn't had the physical reps as a veteran player. But the same thing applies. Both those guys have to get this information as quickly as possible. So it really takes so much learned, like rote memorization, where you're in. Everybody has different tricks to the trade. Yep. Sometimes you want to associate it with some of the things you learn in another system. I try to tell guys, as much as you can wipe clean and start over, that's really the best bet. Because, just because there may be things that were taught in the old system that don't apply in this system, because everybody teaches things different, and you don't want to drag some of those things into this new thing. And again, the old experiences, both positive and negative, can benefit you. But from a system learning standpoint, you really want to kind of cut those things and go, okay, what are these coaches? What's this group of coaches trying to teach me about this play that I need to learn for the Vikings versus how I played it for the Bears or the Cardinals or the Dolphins or a team that you were on previously. So that exercise can fill up your offseason pretty quick, and it really takes a lot. I know a lot of guys employ the services of their spouses to kind of help them, whether it's calling out plays or their significant others, just helping them learn the playbook is huge.
Yeah, I remember Cam Bynum talked about that. He said when he was trying to learn the switch from cornerback to safety, he would have his wife hold flashcards and give him play calls, and seeing how that applies to not only the safety position but the quarterback position. I think that's a unique insight, especially for a guy in Sam Darnold, right? Like, everybody's talking about him. I feel like you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, well, the difference is that the speed at which you get that done allows you to begin to attack the defense. Like, if you're still in memorization mode, then you're walking to the line of scrimmage going, What is Justin Jefferson doing? What is Jordan Addison doing?
Yep.
What's our protection? Like, what do we call things?
Mm-hmm.
You're not really attacking. You're just kind of accepting things as they come and dealing the football. When you have the offense down
Mm-hmm.
and it's in your core, now you're like, we're about to attack these guys. Like, we're going to attack this coverage, and I'm going to go at them with this route. So those are the levels of learning that you really want to get to, and we're trying to progress that way with Sam, as soon as possible.
Let's rewind back to July 27th of 2018. That was the first day that both you and Sam reported to New York Jets camp. And it was Sam's rookie year, third overall pick. And you got a chance to be the backup that year and understanding his thought process from that day until where we are right now. How has that guy evolved into who he is right now for this team?
Yeah, man, he's I say it every now and then, like, he's such an adult, man. He's such a grown up.
Yeah.
And on a personal level, it's just really cool, you know, to watch somebody that you got to know 7 years ago kind of mature in their life and grow. But he's grown as a player as well. And I think the number one thing that I see in Sam is, as his coach, is just a level of focus that he brings to preparation every week. And
can you give me the small example of what that means?
Yeah, just how he goes about internalizing the game plan, and so that it can manifest on Sundays. Like, that in of itself is a practice of, like we're talking about, of just you're getting this playbook and how quickly can I get it, in my core, so that I understand it at a level that when the bullets are flying and it's real in the game and the pressure's against me, the things I want, my natural talents will take over because I know this game plan so well. So how he, obviously it starts with like note taking, the questions he asked, whether it's with Coach Phillips or Coach O'Connell, like the time he spends with them, and then after practice, the time he puts in with Grant Udinsky, who's an unbelievable asset to our quarterback room. Like, the time he spends with Grant and getting kind of the background of some of the system knowledge that Grant has that I don't have because Grant's been here. So some of those things, like, he's turning over every stone to be as prepared as possible. And I think that's the thing I'm most pleased with him. And looking back 7 years to now, of saying, man, like if you're telling me 7 years ago, the guy that you were hoping to look up and see, this would be who I want to see, is this version of Sam.
I love it. We're talking to quarterbacks coach Josh McCown. And before we go to break, just staying on that question of your relationship with Sam Darnold, like, a lot of people have an opportunity to be coaches, but not a lot of people have the opportunity to coach a friend. So how do you coach a friend and him still be able to excel at the highest level in Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I think to a degree, he knows that I know. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows that I know. Like, and ever since he got in the league, and even from our first time together, of just wanting to see the best and wanting the best for him, and so the standard that we hold him to, and that I'm tasked with holding him to as the QB coach, does not change. And matter of fact, I think it raises it because. You know how your interactions, like with people that aren't maybe as close to you, you kind of like you're cool with how they can act a certain way, but like when your kids start acting silly, like, you hold them to a higher standard, right? Or your family acts silly, you're like, hold on now, like we need to have a conversation. And I feel that way a little bit with me and Sam, where there's a level to our relationship that it's like, I want the best for him, on so many levels, obviously just for the Vikings in general, but just personally, because we do have a history. So I think there's a trust there that when we call out the greatness in him and demand better in certain areas, that he can respond to that. And I think that's unique, and I enjoy that part of it.
I love it. Can we do one more quick segment with you?
Let's do it.
Josh McCown coming up right after the break. Well, we are back. This is the Minnesota Vikings podcast. The Minnesota Vikings are 4-0, heading across the pond to London this upcoming Sunday to face the New York Jets. And this is a New York Jets team that Josh McCown, who is our guest, that you're very familiar with. And the fact that You play them across the pond, a new fan base for you with, this UK Vikings fan base. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, as a coach who played for that team, like, what are your thoughts going into that game from a human perspective?
Yeah, they're obviously, they come from a big market. When you get to play in that market, you understand the scrutiny that you're under as a Jets player, and that all eyes are on you. So this game will be no different, given our record and then the success that that they're having and the hope that they have with their quarterback, especially, being a Hall of Fame player. So we're excited about it, but it's another opportunity for us to go out and continue to grow and get better, and that's the main focus. And we know that we'll have our hands full. They're a good team and a very good defense. Robert Saleh is an excellent football coach, excellent defensive football coach, and so we know we got our hands full, and that preparation will start here soon, and we'll get ready to roll, and all the aspects of getting over to London and getting ready to play will be a part of that.
Yeah, the logistics is the underrated portion of this entire thing, but I know our staff does a great job in making sure everybody's well taken care of, well rested, and just thinking of Sam, right, and playing against his former team. Like, I know a lot of people are going to make a lot out of that, but for me, I feel like Sam just wants to be a guy that plays football and just like, it's just a normal human being.
Yeah.
Like, what have you sensed from him this week?
No, for sure. Like, he is, and that's what I'm getting back to. Like, that's what I think most impressed with right now is that he has such a present mentality, and where it's just executing this thing in front of him, whether it's this meeting or this walkthrough or this lifting session. Like, he's just executing the thing in front of him, and so you're right. There will be, I'm sure, stories and noise and things that are of interest to everybody outside of the game. But for him, his focus will be on, I know it'll be on the Jets and how he's going to prepare and be on our game plan and how to internalize that. And so I'm not concerned with that, because I know what I've seen since the day he got here to now has just been a very intentional focus to be present and be the best he can in every moment.
How does that help your coaching?
I mean, those things obviously make it easier, because you're not having to dial, reel somebody in from, doing this or doing that.
Yep.
That you feel him in the meeting, you feel his attention to the game plan, to the information you're presenting him. Yep. You feel that, and so that's you appreciate that as a coach, because it makes your job easier. And again, when you get that kind of attention, you're able to then focus and dive deeper into some details that are going to give you an edge on game day.
You talked about assistant quarterbacks coach Grant Udinski earlier, and we're talking to quarterbacks coach Josh McCown, but a guy that we haven't mentioned is a former NFL quarterback who just so happens to be our head coach, Kevin O'Connell. Describe just his impact as a former coach, as a friend of yours, being able to help Sam's process so far this year.
Man, he's been lights out. I'm so impressed with our whole coaching staff in general. So I don't want to go into, but Wes Phillips is a rock star,
phenomenal
as our OC, and they've just been awesome. But Kevin's ability to game plan and to lead our team and to call plays, at the highest of levels has been really impressive. It's what what I thought we saw in him 10 years ago as a young quarterback coach. But man, he is just I'm just every day, the more and more I get to see it, it's so impressed with how he handles himself and how he leads our team. And relative to Sam, just some guys, they get outside of it and playing, like you said, a former quarterback, they can kind of forget kind of what it feels like to play that position. But it's never too far out of Kevin's mind about what it feels like to hold that ball back there and to be in that position. And I think because of that, he draws on those experiences and utilizes that knowledge to help put our quarterbacks in advantageous situations. So it's very helpful as a quarterback coach to have a guy like that at the helm, both as the head coach and as the play caller, because he helps your team out so much. So very, very thankful for KO.
I think all Minnesota Vikings fans are thankful for Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown, who we're talking to right now, Minnesota Vikings quarterback coach, and staying in that quarterback room. We know, that's a very talented room. You got Nick Mullins, you got Brett Rippon, but a lot of people haven't heard about J.J. McCarthy, the guy who we drafted 10th overall this year, and just being in that room, seeing him every day, understanding his process. How instrumental has this process been for J.J. McCarthy, who's recovering from an injury right now?
It's been huge. I mean, he's in every meeting that he can be in. The attention right now is on the rehab and getting him to. There's phases of that, and Tyler and their team take care of that. But as we go through the phases and stages of that, and he's attacking that just like you would expect JJ to attack it. But the meetings that he's involved in, which are as many as he can be involved in, he's engaged, he's attentive. We throw questions at him randomly. We want him to feel involved, and he spits those answers out quickly, and they're correct most of the time. And he's right on, and so we're really pleased with how he's interacting, and those interactions that relative to how the program goes with him from a rehab standpoint will continue to be more and more, and we're excited about that. And we talk about it all the time. We love our room. When you turn the tape on and you see Brett Rippon and you see Nick Mullins, who has been invaluable to myself as a guy with system knowledge, to be able to lean on. And when you talk about plays, and it goes back to like learning the playbook, like everybody teaches them different. And when you have a guy that's actually played in the system sitting in your room, he's such an asset to Sam. He's such an asset even to myself. And it was great to add Brett. Like we really feel good about our room and the support that our room has for one another. And so I pinch myself every day when we get to walk in there, because you're working with pros. I mean, these guys, the way they take notes, the way they give reminders to one another, the way that they compete, it's a really, really cool process.
Yeah, I'm thinking just of the quarterback room in particular. Outside looking in, I know I'm working inside of the building, but outside looking in, I think the greatest part that I've seen about this quarterback room is how J.J. McCarthy cheers on his teammates, including Sam and everyone else on social media. Like, we know it's a competition. Every position is a competition battle, but I feel like he's the biggest cheerleader for this quarterback room, and I'm sure that probably affects the entire room, including Sam, correct?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's to have the support of your teammates is critical, and especially within your room.
Yeah.
And JJ, this speaks to who he is as a person. It's just like, as soon as you want to be able to encourage and impact the game, and at whatever level. When you're on the field, you have that impact on the field, but when you're off the field, it's like, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And so he's using his voice to be a support for his teammate, and I think that's awesome, and we appreciate that from him, and we're excited about his progress and where he was headed. Going through, he had the one preseason game and thought he played really well, and really pleased with how he attacked learning this playbook, and excited about his future, and he makes our room fun.
Josh, 2 more questions for you. One, moving into this upcoming week, you get an opportunity week in and week out to go against Brian Flores and his defense. When you look at the stats, I mean, they're number 1 or number 2 in almost every single category. As a coach, like, how beneficial is that, going against a defense like that every day in practice?
Man, iron sharpens iron. And I think that saying gets thrown around so much in our business, and I don't know if I've felt it as much as I had this offseason, and especially this training camp. Those guys, I think those guys, just when you have to go against that every day, you have to find solutions, and then from a quarterback standpoint, you have to be ready. You have to have great eyes and great discipline within your reads. And I can there's a handful of plays that I can look at throughout the course of our season already, our young season, and tell you that Sam has benefited from going against our defense. And so, as tough as it is when you're in training camp, you're like, man, could we just get something simple where we could, that was my first reaction. But now
this guy's again?
Yeah, exactly. But now going through it, you're like, all right, man, like, it's like anything. The more you lean into that discomfort, and you get comfortable being uncomfortable, so to speak, the more it benefits you down the road. And so Flo and Durante and Swerve and those guys, like, It's a phenomenal staff they have over there, and they do a great job. And they have been unbelievable early on, in the season here with taking the ball away, and just the intensity that they play with. And it's certainly we felt that in training camp, and it's paid dividends for us.
My final question for you: we've heard a lot of guys talk about this team being different. Like there's just something unique about this team, and being in the NFL as long as you have, playing with so many different teams, being on playoff teams, like what makes this 2024 Minnesota Vikings team unique?
Yeah, I think it's just a collection of guys that are smart, tough, disciplined football players, and it's not about them. It's about their teammates. And you go back, just yesterday, you look at the play Jordan gets on the jet sweep that he gets around the end and he scores, and there's Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
There he is on the edge blocking to spring him.
Yep.
Okay. And you just have to ask yourself, like, how many guys that are in that conversation like Jets is, how many guys do that? And so I think that's reflective of our team. And it's reflective of the culture that Kevin and Wes and Flo and the guys have created here already, over the first few years, and I think that's what makes this feel what it feels like right now. And so it's it's still one day at a time.
Yep.
It's a one day at a time mindset, dominating the next thing, the next meeting, and the next walkthrough. But that those feelings are real. We gotta lean into them and keep being selfless and keep doing the little things, and we'll see where that leads us.
I love it. Well, look, you talked about teamwork and reflection of a team, and I promise you, for our radio fans, Josh McCown and I have on the same exact shirt. We did not plan this out. We did not plan this out, but I feel like it's just a reflection of what this entire building is, because everybody's on the same page. Josh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure talking to you. Appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you, brother.